Cayman in the Cayman Islands.
For the Record is brought to you by Vamped Motors, the only authorized Ford and Toyota dealership serving the Cayman Islands. Cayman Pharmacy Group, with a location in West Bay and professional pharmacy at CTMH Doctors Hospital. The Cayman Pharmacy Group has a location for you just around the corner. Seaboard Marine, with over 35 shipping ports, find your shipping solution by calling 949-4977 or visit seaboardmarine.com for competitive rates. Rotary Central, for more than 110 years, Rotary members have used their passion, energy, and intelligence to take action on sustainable projects. And Roper's Janitorial, complete janitorial service for commercial, industrial, and residential. They get the job done right every time.
This is For the Record with Orrett Connor.
Coming to you live from Radio Cayman Studio.
For the Record.
For the Record. For the Record.
Hear from your government officials, independents, and the opposition on issues that matter to you.
For the Record.
Engage in an open dialogue between residents and lawmakers.
For the Record.
For the Record. For the Record.
Informative, impartial, insightful.
This is your talk show.
1-800-534-8255. Your calls, your input. This is For the Record. And now, your host, Orrett Connor.
Good morning and welcome to For the Record. Today is Monday, the 3rd day of June 2019. I trust that everyone had an enjoyable weekend. It's been a busy weekend for many people as well, and I'm sure that you're just happy to know that you woke up this morning and as a result of that, you are with us, and I urge you to make the best of it. Make the best of life. Make the best of each day that you have on this earth as well. For those of you who are on the roads of the Cayman Islands, we urge you to be extremely careful. Observe the rules of the road. If you're a cyclist, if you're a pedestrian, if you're operating any type of motorized vehicle on the roads of the Cayman Islands, we urge you to be extremely careful and remember the life you save may be your own. I want to thank you, our listening and viewing audience, for allowing Radio Cayman and by extension For the Record into your homes, into your vehicles as you traverse the busy roads of the Cayman Islands, into your places of work, whether it be an office cubicle or if you're working in the outdoors. For the Record is a show produced by the staff and management of Radio Cayman, and it is geared towards keeping you abreast of issues as they arise and play out on the local, regional, and international scene. I am your host, Orrett Connor, and you're welcome to join me every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 7:30 a.m. until 10 a.m. Our phone lines are always open. There is always someone there waiting to take your calls. After a 2-week absence, it is our pleasure to hear that beautiful radio voice of Miss Susan Watson back on the air as well. You can call us on our toll-free number provided courtesy of Flo. That toll-free number is 1-800-534-8255. You can also call us on 949-8037 and 949-6990. Email us at For the Record. If you don't like to talk on the telephone, email us at For the Record. That is one word, For the Record, at CANDW.KY. WhatsApp us on 925-3261, where we encourage you to send us a text message or leave us a voice note, the contents of which will be played during the course of the show. And of course, you can follow us on YouTube simply by subscribing to Radio Cayman live stream. I want to give you the calendar of events that will take place on For the Record this morning at 8 o'clock. We'll be talking about the legislative agenda for the upcoming legislative session. That will be after the news at around about 8:10, after the 8 o'clock news. We will also be talking about the schools report and the new curriculum that will be introduced into the schools as well. So that will take place after 8 o'clock. Meanwhile, we will have an open mic section, open line, where we will allow you to call in and to talk about some of the things that you want to talk about. If not, I have lots of things that I will share with you as well. First of all, I'd like to wish a belated happy birthday greetings to Mr. Hubert Miller and Miss Hyacinth Miller. Both of them celebrated their 60th birthday on Friday night. A big turnout for that, including family members, colleagues from their work in the education field as well. And it was a nice get-together that was all arranged by the children of Mr. and Mrs. Miller. So again, a belated happy birthday to them. Other happenings on Friday, you would have heard on the news as well. Public Service Pensions Office opened in Cayman Brac to serve the residents of Cayman Brac and Little Cayman. Over 700 pensioners residing in the Brac, pensioners and their families residing in the Brac and Little Cayman. So that is a very good move on the part of the management of the public service pensions to open an office over there. The governor was there, deputy governor was there as well, the financial secretary, Mr. Kenneth Jefferson, who's the chair of the Public Service Pension Board, was there as well, as also other members of the board. Huge turnout to that event, and the people of the Brac enjoyed that immensely. Got an opportunity to talk to several people in the Brac who I haven't seen for a while, and Brac is always a beautiful place to go to. And if you're thinking about retirement and you want to invest in home, maybe investing in a second home in the Brac would not be a bad idea after all. Then yesterday, huge turnout in Georgetown. A huge cross-section of Georgetown showed up to YY's funeral at King's Seventh-day Adventist Church. Huge. And then certainly at the cemetery as well. It's a large family to begin with, and the wide cross-section of people who attended that funeral. Unbelievable. And I want to say to my audience that people are continuously asking and seeking answers to some of the social issues that we're facing here in the Cayman Islands. And one question that was asked by a very prominent person who spoke yesterday, they spoke about the fact that we're losing so many people in a particular age category, and how do we fill that void that is there? Whether or not the next generation that is coming will be able to fill that void that was left. And when you heard about the tributes being given to YY and talked about her and about her caring ways, accepting people, with open arms, so friendly and everything. And the big question is, do we have people who are going to continue to fill that void? The other thing I want to address is sitting there yesterday talking to a good friend of mine who came here from Barbados as a police officer and probably would have been in his teens when he came here. He's been here now for 50 years in the Cayman Islands. Many people who have come to the Cayman Islands have spent the major part of their lives here in the Cayman Islands than they have spent in their own country of birth. Now, I know that there's always questions about who's a Caymanian, and we have a legal definition of who's a Caymanian based on not our constitution, but on our immigration laws. But when a person who is in their 60s now and have spent 50 years here in the Cayman Islands, you tell me, what do you call that person? Who do you think that person is? How do you think that person reacts? How do you think he sees, he views the people in his community? 50 years in one country when you left your place of birth when you were only in your teens. If you've been in Cayman all of those years, I will say this, and there will probably be those who will contradict me on it, but that person has to be Caymanian. Can't be anything but Caymanian after being here for 50 years, out of 60 odd plus years here in the Cayman Islands. So those are some of the things that we want to talk about. If I get an opportunity, I will share with you some stories from the Tradewinds newspaper. The closest I could get to the 3rd of June is the 2nd of June, 1966. And there's an article in there about Cuba releasing Caymanians, that will be releasing Caymanians. There is a story about an introductory luncheon that was being held by Mr. Cullen Panton, the director of Cayman Aluminum Construction Company. There's one about a suicide in East End, Laxa's anniversary. There's a story, very interesting, exciting story about Mr. Otto Watler being saved after being lost in a boat. So lots of things to share with you. But before we do that, we have one caller, and I'm going to try to take that caller before we go to our first break. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Yeah, morning, OC. This is McKeever here in the block.
Good morning. How are you?
Yeah, it opened mic, man. You had me waiting a long time, but I know you finally got to me. Thank you. I said I would like to give a condolences to the late Miss Tita. Miss Tita Borden was one of the stalwart women of Cayman Block.
Okay.
When they had the signs with the stuff round on the south side by my property there, with, the thing with foot,
yes.
He won the case.
Uh-huh.
When Miss Tita was one of the women, she said, Bobo, you come and call me and pick me up. I will be there standing by your side. And right now, I wish I had somebody like her standing by my side, because I want to let you know, I know you read the newspaper, the man that got caught in Cayman Block with the 49 ganja, 47 ganja plant, that was me, Elvis Jeffrey McKeever. But the headline should have read, instead of being tipped off, it should have read, crackhead, cocaine crackhead, informed on 60-year-old medicinal farmer. That would have line should have read. But anyhow, saying that to say this, I would like the whole public to know, all the people of the Cayman Islands and the world will be able to listen for it, that as we speak now, I must soon be on my way to pick up a petition. I got a petition written up asking for the government to change. It's time for us to change our law now. No politician, they promised it on their manifesto. When Franklin McField brought it up years and years ago, they shot him out the sky. We have a ganja culture in the Cayman Islands. You remember the last time you were talking about ganja, and about 2 weeks after that, they found about 500 pounds right down in Rock Hole. You remember that?
Yes.
So tell me something now. Then after that, they found 900 pounds. If that is saying something, you tell me. And OC, I got caught with ganja when I was 15 years old, and after that, I couldn't go back to no school. They wouldn't accept me in no school, so
wow.
I went through life that way, but I'm still here, 60-odd years old, and all over ganja been coming from Jamaica. Now the business is so good, they're bringing it from Miami. And what I refuse, and I want the Cayman Islands to refuse this, they are bringing guns with the ganja, and I am not supporting Anything, if you bring the ganja, but you're making tons of money. Then you want to destroy the country with your gun. It's time for us to be able, as citizens in this new world, the winds of change, to grow our own ganja. Who want to smoke it? Smoke it. Alcohol is legal. Who wants to drink it? Drink it. Understand?
Mm-hmm. I got your point.
It's time. Well, I know when I cut off, you're not going to keep the subject up because you was anti-weed, you was overpaid.
No. I'm going to switch the subject simply because there are other things to talk about. But if there are more people who call in about it, we'll certainly keep the conversation going.
Yeah, thank you. And let's don't go back to the 60 too much. This 2019, we need to get in what's going on. Hey, but my brother, you can laugh, you know. Uh-huh. It might be a joke to you.
No, it's not a joke. I'm laughing when you say that don't go back to the 60s. We don't want to live in the past, certainly, but our past will tell us, how to deal with our future.
Tell me something. I know you old school, you know. I want you to dig up who were the first ganja farmer in the Cayman Islands, and who used to take it to Tapa.
And who used to bring it from Jamaica as well.
Yeah, but
it would surprise you.
Listen, you see when politics brings out a lot of things, and I used to hang up with old Caymanians all the time, right? That's how I know what I know. I raised on Matilda Corner with all those men.
Oh, yes.
You understand?
Yes.
So I got a lot of aces in the hole. And I hope, thank you, and you have a nice day.
Thank you, Elvis. All the best to you too. Folks, please stay tuned for the record. We'll be back after this short commercial break.
The Cayman Islands boasts of a long, colorful, and rich history. In tribute to our roots, Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands, is pleased to bring you the Historical Vignette Series, sponsored by Cayman National Bank. Visit Cayman National Bank today for all of your financial needs. The Cayman Islands, he hath founded it upon the seas.
Avida Eluda Bodden Forbes, 1894 to 1986. Eluda Bodden was born in East End. During her childhood, when medical services were very limited, she was always interested in helping her mother to care for the sick. At the age of 22, she married Ebenetus Forbes of Breakers, with whom she eventually had 8 children. After starting her own family, Eluda volunteered to be a midwife, and she traveled to many districts on foot or on a donkey or horse to deliver babies. Sometimes she would leave home a week prior to the due date to help prepare for the birth, and she stayed up to 8 days after the birth cooking and caring for the new mother's family. When she was at home, Eluda made thatch rope, baskets, and brooms. Brooms were her specialty, and she received requests for them from the United States and Canada. She was the last known Caymanian to make castor oil from the oil nut that was grown locally. She knew many different herbs, which she gathered from the bush and made into medicine for her patients. In hundreds of deliveries, she never lost a child or its mother.
Radio Cayman's Historical Facts Vignettes are proudly brought to you by Cayman National, with branches on all 3 Cayman Islands. Visit Cayman National Bank today for all of your financial needs.
When you need stability, think Business of the Year.
Considering a new career opportunity, think Best Place to Work.
When dependability matters, think Outstanding Workforce.
In need of a reliable financial partner? Think Bank of the Year.
When you seek excellence, think Cayman National.
No matter how many accomplishments we achieve, we always set the bar higher. That's why we are the most awarded bank in Cayman, and we are proud to be your
2018 Bank of the Year.
Why my wife always asking if I'm in a rush when she's the one always making us late?
Might as well say, I'm in a rush and go buy the new Toyota Rush you've been talking about. Cause they on sale this month. Dal teacher.
The super special spring SUV sale at Vant Motors. Save up to $4,400 with SUVs starting at only $23,500, like the 7-seater Toyota Rush. Save money, get cash back, or use the discount to upgrade features on the SUV of your choice, including the Toyota RAV4, the Fortuner, the Rush, or the Ford EcoSport. It's our super special spring SUV sale. Only at Vant Motors, Walkers Road.
I remember playing at 7 Mile Beach as a boy, eating mango by the sea, learning how to snorkel. My mother, she worked so hard to provide for our family so that we could have those moments. Seeing her age has been tough. That strong, capable woman, now in need of daily support, it's my time to be strong for her.
CTMH Doctors Hospital Pharmacy understands the importance of the careful decisions you make every day for your family. Our staff work towards healthcare excellence and providing the most current and up-to-date training with pharmaceutical care, so you can feel confident in knowing that your family is safe with the right medication. At CTMH Doctors Hospital Pharmacy, we take care of your health.
At Seaboard Marine, customers often ask us questions about their shipments.
Hi, I'm thinking of buying a car from the States. Which port do you ship out of?
Hi, we ship out of Miami, Houston, and Brooklyn. Just let us know your port of choice and we can provide you with a quotation and answer any questions you may have on insuring and protecting your vehicle during its journey.
Shipping shore to shore, Seaboard.
Since 1993, Rotary Central has worked diligently each year to provide quality bus shelters to our community. A traveling convenience to our school children, the elderly, young people going to work, guest workers, and visitors using the public bus. We, Rotary Central, help you, our advertisers, make it happen. Your marketing dollar travels a far way. Positioning your message, your product, your services, your presence in over 83 bus shelters. Every dollar you spend, every advert you place helps to build another bus shelter, providing modest comfort for Cayman travelers. Reserve space now on the only billboard medium in the Cayman Islands. Email rotaryshelters@gmail.com. rotaryshelters@gmail.com. The Bus Shelters, a partner in community convenience. Another inspiration program by Rotary Central Cayman Islands.
They say cleaning your house never killed anyone, but why take chances? Spend your time doing what you love and leave the rest to Roper's Janitorial. Complete janitorial service for commercial, industrial, and residential with 24-hour emergency service. Roper's Janitorial, 949-2511. Email janitorial@ropers.ky. Take back your life and get the job done right the first time. Roper's Janitorial, 949-2511.
System 1 loaded.
1-800-534-8255. What is on your mind when it comes to the government, independence, and the opposition? Issues that matter to you. 1-800-534-8255. Waiting to hear from you. For the record.
This is For the Record with Orrett Connor.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. We will have our guest in the studio at around about 8:10 after the 8 o'clock news, and we will be speaking firstly about the legislative agenda for the upcoming legislative session. Until then, I'm going to share with you an article from the 2nd of June, 1966. And like I said before, we need to know where we're coming from. Some people, many people who listen to this radio show were not born in 1966. It's important for them to know what was happening in the Cayman Islands, where we have come from, where we are now, and where we want to go. And part of knowing where we want to go will be based on knowing where we're coming from as well. So this article talks about in the midst of the Cuban Prime Minister Fidel Castro's ranting and raving towards the United States to the north of Cuba, there is a quiet program of cooperation underway with the government of Grand Cayman to the south. It was announced this week by Mr. J.A. Cumber, administrator, that lengthy attempts to obtain the release of Caymanian citizens now being restrained on the island of Cuba have at last begun to bear fruit. Negotiations, which are being handled through the British Embassy, have finally received the blessings of Cuban Prime Minister, and some 75 Caymanians are being processed for repatriation. Of the 75 prospective refugees, this paper referred to them then as refugees. I can't see how they would be refugees if they're Caymanians coming back to Cayman, but we'll read further. There are included a large number of children of tender years. Preliminary arrangements have been made to airlift the refugees, about 45 per flight by KLM, that is Royal Dutch Airlines. In view of certain legal formalities between the various governments involved in this operation, Mr. Cumbers said that the arrival of the refugees here in Grand Cayman should not be anticipated any sooner than late August or early September. That would be of 1966. Whatever the date of their arrival, it is certain that all Caymanians will extend to them a warm and sincere welcome. Now, I'm going to very quickly go on to say to you that we have several Cubans residing here in the Cayman Islands. Some are residing here on work permits simply because of Cuba's liberalization of allowing Cuban citizens to leave. Businesses in the Cayman Islands have chosen to employ them. The majority of Cubans residing in the Cayman Islands are Cubans of Caymanian descent. And this is what this article is talking about. Those 75 Cubans coming at that point in time were Cubans of Caymanian descent. Not to say, and I also want to extend to you, and many of you know this as well, that in what we call the Isle of Pines or Isle of Youth, that Cuba refers to it as Isle of Youth now, we have many Caymanians still living over there. There are areas in Isle of Pines that are named after places in Cayman, or maybe it's the other way around. Maybe places in Cayman were named after those over there, but there are similar names there as well. So there is a close connection with Cuba in that regard. And then, of course, this was in the 60s, and then in the 70s, we saw more persons being repatriated to the Cayman Islands, coming to the Cayman Islands from Cuba as well. Some were unable to come because of their age. They were either required to do military service or were not allowed to leave until after the age probably of 18. But many of those persons who have come to the Cayman Islands have contributed immensely to the development of the Cayman Islands. Many of them came highly educated as well, because we know that Cuba had a very robust educational system there. So I just want to say, you're part of us. We need to keep that history alive, and we need to welcome our own. We need to welcome our own people, be they coming from Cuba, from Jamaica, wherever. We need to welcome them with open arms, because they should be first and foremost when it comes to us welcoming people to the Cayman Islands. Folks, we've reached that top of the hour. Time check for the 8 o'clock news. When we return, we will have guests in our studio, so please stay tuned. Lots of interesting things to talk about, and we want you to either listen or to join in the conversation when it is appropriate as well. Please stay tuned for the record. We'll be back immediately after the 8 o'clock news.
Price Right is Grand Cayman's warehouse shopping superstore, making your dollar go further with huge savings and no membership fees. Get more of the things you use every day at the right price. But it's not just grocery and health and beauty. Price Right has a full range of products, from office to automotive, patio furnishings to kitchen appliances, and even electronics. And since warehouse prices mean savings for you, everything is priced right at Price Right, Grand Cayman's warehouse shopping superstore.
And studio time by Price Right is 8 o'clock.
the voice of the Cayman Islands.
89.9 FM in Grand Cayman and 93.9 FM in Cayman Brac and Little Cayman.
Silver wings shining in the sunlight.
Radio Cayman.
Access and information. Your community. News and information. Radio Cayman is your choice, your voice for today's biggest news. Radio Cayman.
With your latest news, I'm Karsley Fuller. Heads and other delegates from integrity commissions and anti-corruption agencies in the Commonwealth Caribbean are meeting on Grand Cayman this week for the 5th annual conference of the Commonwealth Caribbean Association of Integrity Commissions and Anti-Corruption Bodies. Secretary General of the Commonwealth, the Right Honourable Patricia Scotland, is delivering the opening remarks at the opening ceremony today at 9 a.m., which is being held at the Grand Cayman Marriott Beach Resort. The theme for the conference this year, that is organized locally by the Commissions for Standards in Public Life, is Transforming Words into Action, Revitalizing the Fight Against Corruption. His Excellency the Governor Martin Roper, OBE, will declare the conference open, and the Cadet Corps will participate in the opening ceremony with a procession of flags. This will be the first time that the Cayman Islands has hosted the event. Panel discussions will cover corruption in sports, modernizing legal framework, and investigative battles against corruption, as well as new technologies to combat corruption. Additionally, representatives from each country will provide updates on the past year's work of their country's commissions. And local public and private stakeholders are set to collaborate on a special climate change and health chapter to go into the draft National Climate Change Policy. Recently, about 50 people from public sector agencies, the private sector, and professional bodies attended a 2-day conference on protecting populations of small island developing states like Cayman from the anticipated impacts of climate change on health and health systems. It was organized by the Pan American Health Organization and the World Health Organization, as well as Cayman's ministry responsible for health. PAHO's vision is that by 2030, all small island developing states will have health systems that are resilient to climate change. Other topics on the agenda included the impact of climate change on environmental determinants of health, building climate-resilient health systems, the action plan on health and climate change for the Caribbean, and the importance of an intersectoral approach to climate change. In regional news, the Jamaican government is to redouble efforts to increase local production of organic agricultural produce in a bid to reduce imports. Minister without portfolio in the Ministry of Industry, Commerce, Agriculture and Fisheries, J.C. Hutchinson, made the announcement while addressing farmers at the 2019 staging of the Rural Agricultural Development Authority's St. Bless AgriFest held at the Santa Cruz Community Center in St. Elizabeth on Friday. Hutchinson indicated that initiatives to increase cultivation of Irish potatoes and onions have already started. He said castor beans and bamboo, for which there are emerging markets, are also being added to the list. Now with the check of international news, here's the BBC, which will take us out of the newscast. I'm Karsley Fuller from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
BBC News. Dozens of civilians have been killed or injured in the capital of Sudan, Khartoum, as security forces attacked a pro-democracy protest. The paramilitary Rapid Support Forces are reported to have surrounded 2 hospitals. Khartoum Airport is temporarily shut. The leaders of the protest, who have occupied a site outside the military headquarters since April, have called for organised civil disobedience. Thousands of demonstrators have gathered in Khartoum's twin city Omdurman, which lies on the other bank of the River Nile. The U.S. Embassy in Khartoum has condemned the violence, saying attacks against protesters are wrong and must stop. The European Union has urged a speedy transfer of power to civilians. The British Foreign Secretary described the attack on protesters as outrageous. Egypt, a key ally of Sudan's Transitional Military Council, was less critical but called for calm. A row has broken out between President Trump and the Mayor of London, hours before the President arrived on a state visit. Mr. Trump called Sadiq Khan a stone-cold loser. Earlier, Mr. Khan had written an article critical of Mr. Trump. One of the candidates to lead Britain's governing party, Jeremy Hunt, has said he would heed US warnings about working with the Chinese technology firm Huawei. As President Trump flew into Britain, Mr. Hunt told the BBC he would take careful notice of everything Washington says. Russia has dismissed President Trump's demand that its warplanes stop bombing the rebel-held Syrian province of Idlib, where there have been reports of many casualties. The Kremlin spokesman said terrorists in the stronghold were launching unacceptable attacks. BBC News.
Access. Information. What's happening in your community? News and information, music and more. You can find us. www.radiocayman.gov.ky. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Radio Cayman is your choice, your voice for today's biggest news. Radio Cayman.
At Kirk's Home Center, we can make your life much better. We got it all together. We got a great deal in store for you. From cookware to stereos, from power tools to plumbing supplies. Yeah, we got the best goods with the best price and a service to make you smile. At Kirk's Home Center, we got a great deal in store for you.
June 26th is International Day Against Drug Abuse and Illicit Trafficking. Did you know that use of alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs begin in adolescence? Studies show that the brain doesn't stop developing until the age of 25. So, kids, don't harm yourself by putting alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs in your body. This message is brought to you by the National Drug Council and Radio Cayman.
The Weather Report is proudly sponsored by Super Stitch Sewing and Fabric Center, your one-stop household store at 39 Pasador Place, Smith Road. Still offering the best prices in town. Call 949-2833 or go to superstitch.com.ky.
New stock has just arrived at Super Stitch. Now don't take my word for it. Drop by and see for yourself. Fresh off the boat, we have loads of fabric, vinyl upholstery fabric, fabric for cushions, outdoor fabrics, and dress fabric. That's not all. Super Stitch has sewing accessories and craft items. Included in the new shipment, you will find sheets, comforters, throw pillows, bath mats, rugs, and curtains for every room in your home. Super Stitch, 39 Pasador Place, Smith Road. Still offering the best price in town. Call 949-2833 or go to superstitch.com.ky.
Good morning. Time now for the latest weather report. Current temperature is 84 degrees. Relative humidity is 81%. Barometric pressure is 29.95 inches and rising. The wind is east-southeast at 5 knots. Overnight low temperature was 80 degrees. Synopsis indicate light southeast winds and slight seas will prevail across the Cayman area for the next 24 hours due to a weak pressure gradient across the northwest Caribbean. Radar images show isolated showers in and around the Cayman area, which are moving towards the northwest. Now, the forecast for today calling for partly cloudy skies with a 30% chance of showers, and temperatures will be in the upper 80s. Winds will be southeast at 5 to 10 knots, and seas will be slight with wave heights of 1 to 3 feet. Forecast for tonight calling for partly cloudy skies with a 20% chance of showers, and temperatures falling to the upper 70s. Your winds will be east to southeast at 5 to 10 knots, and seas will be slight with wave heights of 1 to 3 feet. High tide will occur this morning at 8:42, low tide this afternoon at 3:29, and a high tide again tonight at 10:24. The sun will set this evening at 6:59 and will rise tomorrow morning at 5:47. And the outlook is calling for similar weather conditions through Wednesday morning.
Super Stitch Sewing and Fabric Center was a proud sponsor of the Weather Report, your one-stop shop for all of your household items, craft items, jewelry, beads, and decorations, and much more. Call Super Stitch at 949-2833 or email customer care at superstitch.com.ky.
New stock has just arrived at Super Stitch. Now don't take my word for it. Drop by and see for yourself. Fresh off the boat, we have loads of fabric, vinyl upholstery fabric, fabric for cushions, outdoor fabrics, and dress fabric. That's not all. Super Stitch has sewing accessories and craft items. Included in the new shipment, you will find sheets, comforters, throw pillows, bath mats, rugs, and curtains for every room in your home. Super Stitch, 39 Pasador Place, Smith Road. Still offering the best price in town. Call 949-2833 or go to superstitch.com.ky.
Get set to get wet at the Flowers 1 Mile Sea Swim on Saturday, June 15th.
Be a part of the world's richest open water event with over $100,000 in cash and prizes to be won. 1 in 7 wins. Celebrating 27 years with Swim and Win. Random prizes including smartphones, tablets, airline tickets to London, New York, Rome, Portugal, Dublin, Los Angeles, Brazil, Mexico, Toronto, Montego Bay, and more. No race day registration and limited to 1,000 swimmers. So register online today. Visit flowersseaswim.com for more information. All registration fees will be donated to the Special Olympics Cayman Islands. The 27th annual Flowers 1 Mile Sea Swim on Saturday, June 15th. Proud sponsors include the Flowers Group, the Department of Tourism, Davenport Development, Cayman Airways, Flow Cayman, and Ministry of Education, Youth, Sports, Agriculture, and Lands.
Good morning once again. Let's take a look at what's happening on the roads. Busy traffic coming from the east on Shamrock Road and also on the Lidford Pearson Highway. Traffic is steady coming off of the Bobby Thompson Way. And traffic is steady in some sections of Crew Road, other sections, a little busy traffic. And coming from the Westway 4-way stop, not looking too bad as traffic is flowing pretty good. Moderate flow of traffic on Godfrey Nixon Way and Eastern Avenue, no issues there. On Edward Street, traffic moderate. In and out of Georgetown on Shedden Road, things looking pretty good as traffic flowing nicely. And on the Westway Road in front of the Ritz, traffic is moderate in both directions. And on Huldah Avenue, steady traffic. On Thomas Russell Way, traffic flowing moderately. Remember to buckle up, and if you see any accidents or incidents on Cayman's roads, give us a call here at Radio Cayman 949-6990. Have a good morning.
Support our port, support our tourism.
Across the Caribbean, our competitors have built piers that give cruise ship passengers a better arrival and departure experience. How can we expect to compete if we don't meet passengers' expectations?
Looking forward, looking bright.
Learn more and spread the word.
Support our port, support our tourism.
Radio Cayman 3 to 6 mix on the weekdays.
Tune in, turn it up, listen.
Sponsored by the Cayman Islands Football Association, CIFA, building a better future for Cayman football. Savannah Pharmacy. Remember, they're always just around the corner with everything your family needs. And convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays. Savannah Pharmacy. For more information, call 946-3336.
Every day.
Every day. All the time. All the time.
Ultimate party show in the afternoon. Radio Cayman Supertown.
For the record with Orrett Connor.
Initiating system.
For information that matter. For the record with Orrett Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. It is my pleasure to have in the studio with me this morning the Honourable Tara Rivers, who's the Minister responsible for Financial Services and Home Affairs, and also I have in the studio with me none other than MLA and Councillor, the Honourable Austin Harris.
Good morning.
Minister.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Harris. Good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning to you, O.C. Always a pleasure to be on the program with you, and certainly a special good morning to the listening audience.
Absolutely.
Yes, Minister, it's been quite a while that you've been on, but you've been extremely busy.
I have been, yes, certainly working hard for the people of Westway South in particular, but the country as a whole, and certainly I'm glad to be here today to add some colour, as it may need to be, with respect to
living colour,
figuratively and literally, to the discussion about the upcoming session of the Legislative Assembly. So glad to be here with Councillor and yourself, obviously, and having a discussion for a period of time this morning.
Sure, and I'm sure that our listening and viewing audience are looking forward and anticipating this discussion as well. Mr. Harris.
Yes, sir, indeed. Well, certainly, again, a pleasure to be here. Very delighted to have Minister Rivers in studios with us to speak to perhaps some of the technical aspects of the bills that will be coming to the House when we return to it on Wednesday. And let me add, whilst perhaps you might not like this description, the Minister certainly can be described as a rose between two thorns today, because she's very, very vibrant this morning.
Yes.
We have another busy agenda in the Legislative Assembly coming up on Wednesday, and of course the government's continued commitment to remain transparent with the listening audience. Of course, making regular appearances here on the program with you, both before and after, hopefully serves to benefit the listening audience. We expect to be in the LA for 3 days, from Wednesday to Friday. I say that by knocking on wood, because we have this tendency of running over, but we shall see how far we get. We have a number of papers and reports to lay on the table. We'll be tabling the Financial Reporting Authority annual report, the Cayman Islands Law Reform Commission annual report, the Tourism Attraction Board annual report, the Cautions Adult Law annual report will also be tabled. We will be bringing a number of government motions and bills, at least 4 as I see it. There will be a government motion to amend the development plan for the proposed rezoning of 5 parcels from either low-density residential or neighborhood commercial to hotel tourism and mangrove buffer. This will be presented by the Honourable Minister of Commerce, Planning and Infrastructure, the Honourable Joseph Hugh. And I believe, if I remember correctly, these properties are located between the West Bay Road and the Esterly-Tibbetts Highway.
Okay.
But certainly we encourage your listeners to tune into the LA sessions where they can learn more details about those specific properties. The other bills will include the Directors' Registration and Licensing Amendment Bill and the Securities and Investment Business Amendment Bill. Both will be brought through the Ministry of Financial Services and the Honourable Minister present. Likewise, the Attorney General will be bringing an amendment to the Proceeds of Crime Law, which, as I was informed this morning, is in fact a carryover from the last meeting that we simply ran out of time on. We hope to be addressing that in this session. There will be a number of private members' motions, at least 4, brought by members of the opposition. I think there's a motion for free health care for children, a motion to implement a 5-year strategic plan to train Caymanians for leading positions, a motion calling on the protection of the marine environment, and a motion to increase the normal retirement age of civil servants. This will be, of course, followed by at least 13 questions to members or ministers, also posed by members of the opposition, and hopefully we'll have a chance to get to all of them. Finally, on Friday, if we remain on schedule, we will also be going into Finance Committee, seeking a number of things, but one in particular, which falls under the ministry in which I have shared responsibility for, the Ministry of Community Affairs. As I believe I heard last week, this discussion taking place here on the program, the Unity Government is quite proud of the amount of homes that we have been successful in either completing or scheduling or commenced, if you will, under the Housing Repair Assistance Program. This is a program that repairs homes largely for the elderly persons 60 and over, or persons with disabilities, but is also made available on a case-by-case basis for homes where there are small children who live in that home, and any of those repairs or damages may put the children at risk. We have completed some 11 homes in the last 2 years, from 2018 to the commencement of 2019, and we will be going back to the House on Friday seeking to ask the House to approve an additional $1.2 million in supplementary appropriations so that we can complete a further 22 homes. A lot of these homes, as you certainly are aware, have been admittedly languishing a bit since Hurricane Ivan, going through the various processes involved. What we discovered were the persons that made the applications in the first instance weren't the owners, and therefore we had to go back and do a significant amount of follow-up. But either way, these homes are been identified as certainly urgent, and the government wanting to attend to them as soon as possible. Certainly, hurricane season has already started, and we want to do the best we can to get these persons, Caymanians, fellow Caymanians, back into their homes. I don't foresee any objections to this supplementary appropriation, but I certainly don't want to jinx it before we get there. But this is our plan for the next 3 days.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you for that information. Any information that we can give on the last issue that you spoke about in relation to the repair of homes? For those persons who are not aware of it, how and if their situation hasn't been addressed yet, how can they go about it?
Well, first of all, any application for housing repairs must begin with an application to the Needs Assessment Unit.
Okay.
The reason for that is the Needs Assessment Unit is the department responsible for conducting the financial assessment on the individuals. Once that financial assessment is completed, it averages between 10 days to 2 weeks. Once it's been completed, then a recommendation is made to forward that application on to the Housing Repairs Committee itself. They will then conduct a meeting. Of course, they have a committee entirely of their own. They will prioritize the projects themselves, and homeowners will be notified directly vis-a-vis that Housing Repairs Committee when their properties are scheduled for commencement. So I think really if there's questions relating to where they are in terms of their particular property, the first point of contact would be the Needs Assessment Unit.
Yeah. Excellent. Thank you very much for that information, Mr.
welcome.
Harris. Minister.
Yes, Mr. O.C. So, as Councillor Harris ably gave the overview and very high level of the different items on the agenda, two of the bills that will be presented, and we may be seeing another bill presented by the Attorney General as well. The two bills that deal with the Security Investment Business Law, an amendment to that law, as well as an amendment to the Directors' Registration and Licensing Law, deal with, and that's a consequential amendment because of the main kind of substantive amendments to be made to the, which I'll refer to as SIBL going forward, which is the Security Investment Business Law. Those are some of the, I guess, the first bills that the LA will be seeing in what is going to be a broader, bigger package for the jurisdiction as a whole, covering multiple ministries, multiple departments, agencies, and statutory and other authorities that have work to do to address the 63 recommendations that were put forward by the Caribbean Financial Action Task Force in the report that was published in March of this year. So certainly it's going to be a very busy year for us, actually a busy, remaining months. We are currently under the what's known as the observation period for which actually started at the end of February when the FATF had the plenary in Paris, which I was able to attend on behalf of the jurisdiction, as the Attorney General wasn't able to make that particular session. So we wanted to make sure that they understood the political commitment at the highest level of the jurisdiction to addressing what the report outlined. And so that's where the FATF plenary adopted the report, and it was published, as I said, in March. And so we are in this observation period until February of next year, February 2020, and then there's the procedure continues, but at that time we need to show that we have made substantial progress in addressing all 63 of the recommendations to the extent that we can.
And if we fail to do that, what
well,
are
I
the
certainly don't like
consequences?
to think along those lines, but I think it's a very good question. I mean, in my mind, in the government's mind, failure is not an option. And so we have convened a committee from the, chaired by the Premier, an interministerial committee to kind of really drive this process as best as possible as we can from the political level. We obviously in the last meeting of the House, a substantial amount of funds and resources were put towards ensuring that the various departments and ministries and it's more the agencies, departments and authorities under the ministries had the resources or have access to the resources to carry out the functions that they need. Obviously, the question of carrying that out is very much an operational civil service matter, and we are working very closely with the Deputy Governor to ensure that the work is done the way it needs to be done and to the standard that we will be expected to demonstrate. But failing to do that would mean that we would then, there is other processes that kick in. We would then be, I think, under a more stringent observation period where we actually will be given, whereas we have the opportunity to shape and develop the action plan internally of what we think we'll do, and to actually map that to the report. If we don't come out of this observation period in a way that is satisfactory to the FATF and the CFATF, and obviously there is an element of objectivity but as well as subjectivity in the process, then the process will then escalate to a different regime where the action plan will be basically given to us. And I, as we keep stressing to all in the jurisdiction that have a role to play in this, it's much easier to get into that observation period, but it's a lot more difficult to get out of. So we have to do everything we can during this time to address the concerns, to be able to show and demonstrate effectiveness. And I think, again, it goes back to this new criteria that the FATF have adopted and is now actually being rolled out with various jurisdictions. So this is the first time that Cayman is being assessed on looking under the effectiveness lens. So not only are they looking for technical compliance, that is having the legislative framework in place, but also looking to see that you're actually effectively implementing the legislative framework. And again, putting it in context, about 80 to 90% of the countries that have been assessed so far under the effectiveness regime, the new regime in this fourth round of reviews, are under some form of observation period at the end of that report
even
being
after
published.
That. Okay.
So meaning that the process that we're in right now, about 80 to 90% of the countries have been in a similar type of process where they've had to make changes within the 12 months immediately following the adoption of the report.
So the observation period is for how long?
Well, February 2020 is the next critical date for us.
Okay.
February 2020, we will then, by that point, need to have issued a report that shows the level of work that we have done in the jurisdiction to meet the recommendations that are outlined in the report. So the next D-Day, so to speak, is the end of February 2020. And so we are working very diligently, obviously from the kind of ministry and legislative front. That's why certain bills will be need to be amended, and they're starting in this session. And of course, time is of the essence. So we will be coming to the LA, I think, as frequently as needed. I don't want to give a commitment as to the exact dates going forward, because obviously that has to be discussed with the Premier and the Speaker, and figuring out the time that works for all and sundry in that regard. But so this session we have two bills: the Security Investment Business Amendment Bill 2019, which really looks at a number of issues that the report has flagged in relation to SEMA as the as the regulator for the financial services related business sector. And the issue that was flagged quite extensively throughout the report has to do with the concept of the excluded person and the lack of the ability to have adequate oversight or sight and visibility, and to actually do the necessary risk assessment of the entities that would qualify as excluded persons under the current regime. So we have had very extensive consultation, I would say lasting about 10 months in total, from the various we've had about 4 rounds of consultation altogether that has spanned for about 10 months. So the bill has been consulted on, and we have proposed the significant amendments to the security investment business law to remove this concept of an excluded person, because that seems to be a bit of a red flag to the kind of CFATF review, but also to ensure that there is a registration regime that is put in its place that allows for the different nuances of regulation. So there is the full licensing, there is a registration, but it still allows it will now allow, I should say, once the bill obviously has been approved and adopted, it will allow the Monetary Authority to require information from those persons that are currently deemed as excluded persons to be able to conduct the kind of risk assessment that is required for them to then determine what more, if anything, needs to happen in order in terms of regulating that regime.
Okay, we're going to go to a commercial break now, folks. When we return, the conversation with Minister Tara Rivers and MLA and Councillor Mr. Austin Harris will continue. So please stay tuned. For the record, we'll be back shortly.
They say cleaning your house never killed anyone, but why take chances? Spend your time doing what you love and leave the rest to Roper's Janitorial. Complete janitorial service for commercial, industrial, and residential with 24-hour emergency service. Roper's Janitorial, 949-2511. Email janitorial@ropers.ky. Take back your life and get the job done right the first time. Roper's Janitorial, 949-2511.
CTMH Doctors Hospital Pharmacy, formerly known as Professional Pharmacy, would like to thank the Cayman communities for their loyal support these past 18 years. Our staff work towards healthcare excellence and providing the most current and up-to-date training with pharmaceutical care. Thorough background checks and follow-up consultations is only the beginning. Your safety is our concern. Our staff are respected healthcare professionals whose job requires careful and precise calculations. Thank you for being a part of our family and for choosing CTMH Doctors Hospital Pharmacy, where we prepare to provide exceptional care. At CTMH Doctors Hospital Pharmacy, we care about your health.
Since 1993, Rotary Central has worked diligently each year to provide quality bus shelters to our community. A traveling convenience to our school children, the elderly, young people going to work, guest workers, and visitors using the public bus. We, Rotary Central, help you, our advertisers, make it happen. Your marketing dollar travels a far way, positioning your message, your product, your services, your presence in over 83 bus shelters. Every dollar you spend, every advert you place helps to build another bus shelter, providing modest comfort for Cayman travelers. Reserve space now on the only billboard medium in the Cayman Islands. Email rotaryshelters@gmail.com. rotaryshelters@gmail.com. The Bus Shelters, a partner in community convenience. Another inspiration program by Rotary Central Cayman Islands.
Why my wife always asking if I'm in a rush when she's the one always making us late?
Might as well say, yeah, I'm in a rush and go buy the new Toyota Rush you've been talking about. Cause they on sale this month. Dial teacher.
The super special spring SUV sale at Vant Motors. Save up to $4,400 with SUVs starting at only $23,500, like the 7-seater Toyota Rush. Save money, get cash back, or use the discount to upgrade features on the SUV of your choice, including the Toyota RAV4, the Fortuner, the Rush, or the Ford EcoSport. It's our super special spring SUV sale. Only at Vant Motors, Walkers Road.
System 1 loaded.
1-800-534-8255. What is on your mind when it comes to the government, independence, and the opposition? Issues that matter to you. 1-800-534-8255. Waiting to hear from you. For the Record.
This is For the Record with Orrett Connor.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. In the studio with me this morning, Honorable Tara Rivers, Minister responsible for Financial Services and Home Affairs. Also with us, MLA and Councillor Mr. Austin Harris. Before we went to the commercial break, the Minister was talking about the Security and Investment Amendment bill in the Legislative Assembly. Minister, back to you.
Yes, thank you. So just to kind of, I guess, wrap up the discussion about the bill itself, it really will look to deal with the kind of pejorative connotation of excluded person, as I said, by getting rid of that regime and actually supplementing it or supplanting the new regime of the registered person. There are still some entities that would not be or would be outside the scope of the Securities Investment Business Law. And really, to kind of give some context, the Securities Investment Business Law is the law that kind of governs the carrying on of security investment business in the country, And so, and of course, there's detailed descriptions of what that means. But anybody that would fit the definition of a security investment business would need to either be licensed or currently exempt as an excluded person. But now that will change to either be, to be considered a registered person, or if they are really truly outside of the scope of the law, then they would be non-registered persons. So that so it does increase the kind of appropriate regulatory oversight, and it gives SEMA more authority and more power to require information to be able to do the kinds of risk assessments going forward that is required by the kind of new standards that are being set. It also gives some enforcement action and powers as well, which for the current category of excluded persons, there's none. There's also a requirement for increased kind of governance framework for having the kind of adequate directors, independent directors, and the like appointed to ensure that the entities do have a more robust governance structure than is currently required for, again, the excluded person regime. So this is a significant piece of legislation for to be able to address a number of the recommendations in the CFATF report. So, and as I said, because time is of the essence with many of these things, we wanted to get this to the Legislative Assembly as quickly as possible. The bill was actually gazetted on the 16th of April. So we've had enough time that the 21-day constitutional period has certainly passed. And during that time, actually, we received, even though, we had several rounds of consultation on the bill with local industry bodies that are, specifically relevant to the type of business that this law governs. We've had a number of comments that were received during since the bill was gazetted on the 16th of April, making it a public a bill. We've had a number of comments received at the ministry, and so there will be a number of committee stage amendments brought forward to address the comments received as well. So those were very helpful. So that's kind of in a nutshell why we are bringing this bill at this time. And as I said, the director's licensing and registration law, or the amendment bill, is a consequential change that needs to be had to address one of the definitions in that law to make it consistent with the new law once the bill has been adopted, that is the securities investment business.
Now, Minister, this obviously is a humongous task, and addressing all of the things that are coming from the OECD Financial Action Task Force, whatever. You mentioned the fact that the Premier is chairing this a particular group. Do we have, in terms of coordination of all to address all of these issues, the legislative issues, the amendments to the various pieces of legislation from a technical standpoint, how is the government approaching that?
Okay, well, thank you for that question. I think it's a very good question. So what we have, as a result of, I think, the jurisdiction going through the process really from 2015 when they did this kind of self-assessment to then when the on-site took place in December of 2017, that's when the CFATF assessors were here in Cayman. They did the interviews with both public sector as well as private sector entities, and then the report was issued thereafter based on that on-site assessment. The country had a framework that was being used to kind of spearhead the process. After receiving the report and really looking at the fact that we do need to have an enhanced structure in place, and certainly because, as I said, this next year is going to be critical in terms of timing and making sure that the operational aspects, so all of the competent authorities, the agencies, the departments, the authorities such as SEMA and the FRA, and the police, in law enforcement, to the DPP, so they understand that this is of critical national importance. We felt as a government that we needed to basically enhance the structure that we had. So of course we have currently in place the anti-money laundering unit, which I think is really responsible for, and it sits under the auspices of the AG's, the Attorney General's chambers. So ultimately, the CFATF response is really kind of coordinated, spearheaded by the Attorney General and the arms that sit under his chamber, primarily being that of the Anti-Money Laundering Unit. But what we have discovered and determined that we need to, as I said, enhance that system. And so we have appointed a national coordinator to pull, to work closely with the AMLU and to basically be the point of contact. And then each of the respective agencies also have a point of contact to answer to the national coordinator to basically make sure that all that is being developed from the action plan that the jurisdiction we have developed and developing and fine-tuning ourselves, that there's actually action being taken in a way that, again, meets the test. Because it's very clear to us that just doing the work or doing work, if it doesn't fit to what we're going to be measured against, then essentially we won't get any credit for that
Precisely.
work. And so it is, as you said, it's a monumental task to be able to kind of put this framework together in a way that is going to, in the outcome, be favorable for us. It is a tall order. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say that this process is a slam dunk, because there are many moving parts and many entities, as I said, including from law enforcement, from the police to all of the customs. There are a number of agencies that cut across multiple ministries. But this is why having the Interministerial Steering Committee, which again is chaired by the Premier, it consists of myself as Minister for Financial Services. It consists of the Minister for Commerce, the Honourable Joey Hugh, because the entities such as the Department of Commerce and Investment, they are responsible for regulating what is called the non-financial services business, so jewelers and real estate agents fall under that. So they have a regulatory oversight as well. So there will be some amendments, I'm sure, to legislation for in those areas as well, to be able to strengthen and address what the action plan requires. There's also, and of course, there's also the Special Economic Zone, which falls under the DCI as well. So obviously, Minister Hugh is important for him to drive within his entities the legislative changes that need to be made, as well as action. The Minister of Finance sits on the committee as well. Obviously, he controls the public purse, so needs to very much be in the know in terms of the kinds of resource requirements that may need to be enhanced even further based on how the process evolves. And then there is the points of contact, the kind of at the highest level of all of the agencies and all of the authorities that actually they come to the meetings, and we have regular meetings, and they basically have to report on their progress and are interrogated as necessary to show that the action is being taken accordingly. But we do have a national coordinator structure that we've put in place specifically to drive this. And the key that we want to get across is that this has to be the most important thing for the country as a whole. We know that people are very busy, and these various departments have other responsibilities, what they would consider to be outside of responding to the CFATF report. But quite frankly, if anything is deemed in any of these departments as being more important than making sure that they hit their targets, meet their responsibilities, and carry out the requirements of the action plan in due time, if they don't by now have that understanding, then we are in trouble as a country, because it is absolutely critical that we respond in a positive way and as I said, demonstrate the effectiveness, so we won't be in a situation where we will be dictated to as to what has to happen. I mean, that's never a good position for any country to be in. And certainly, Cayman, we thrive ourselves in being quite independent and being able to kind of chart our course and to take decisions and be responsive, as you said. So, of course, there's the OECD. I mean, that's a whole other conversation that we can have. We had the process that we went through last year where we actually had to respond to the new economic substance regime. And that's still very much a work in progress, because as we're assessed and as those standards evolve, the country will still have to continue to respond in kind. And I know it's a lot, and a lot of people are feeling the pressure, both from public sector as well as the private sector. So private sector is seeing a lot of new laws, new legislations, new regulations, new operations, because a lot of this isn't just doing, so obviously as the legislators, our primary responsibility is making sure we deal with the laws that need to be amended, but also the departments need to work on amending their operational aspects as well to show effectiveness, because again, that's key.
Excellent. We're going to go to a commercial break. Minister, when we return, I'd like you to, if time allows, to explain to our listening and viewing audience why you can't use a cookie cutter for this project. Yeah. Why there's no particular template in place, because every jurisdiction is different, and the various laws in each jurisdiction as well. So we'd certainly appreciate if you explain that to our listening and viewing audience when we return. Folks, please stay tuned for the record. We'll be back shortly.
At Seaboard Marine, customers often ask us questions about their shipments.
I have various items coming from different suppliers that I need to ship to Cayman. Do you offer consolidation?
Yes. Seaboard Marine offers consolidation for full and less than container loads. We can hold your packages at our Miami warehouse until everything arrives and ship it all in one go. And we have the best rates to Grand Cayman. Visit seaboardmarine.com for more information.
Shipping shore to shore.
Since 1993, Rotary Central has worked diligently each year to provide quality bus shelters to our community. A traveling convenience to our school children, the elderly, young people going to work, guest workers, and visitors using the public bus. We, Rotary Central, help you, our advertisers, make it happen. Your marketing dollar travels a far way, positioning your message, your product, your services, your presence in over 83 bus shelters. Every dollar you spend, every advert you place helps to build another bus shelter, providing modest comfort for Cayman travelers. Reserve space now on the only billboard medium in the Cayman Islands. Email rotaryshelters@gmail.com. rotaryshelters@gmail.com. The Bus Shelters, a partner in community convenience. Another inspiration program by Rotary Central Cayman Islands.
At Logic, we make things better for our customers. It's why we're offering free Boost Wi-Fi. With Boost, you get improved Wi-Fi connectivity everywhere in your home, so there's no more dead zones. The only people we're not making this better for is parents. Because now with seamless Wi-Fi in every room in your home, go to your room isn't really the punishment it used to be. Sorry about that. Sign up now for any Logic bundle package and get free Boost Wi-Fi for a limited time. Visit logic.ky for details.
Are you tired of going to the same old locations and settings? Well, Mogul Entertainment wants you to enjoy a piece of the summer dream with its Dream Concert featuring international reggae superstar and the hottest Jamaican act, Nesbeth. My dream. On Friday the 19th of August at the Colwood Beach in Bodden Town. Also featuring international artists Stuart Wilson, Impulse Band, Super C, Empire Sound, and DJ TNT. The gates open at 9:30 p.m. and it all goes down Friday the 19th of August at the Colwood Beach in Bodden Town. Get your tickets.
For the record, with Orrett Connor.
Initiating system.
For information that matter. For the record, with Orrett Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. We're on the final segment of this portion of the show this morning. Conversation is taking place with Honorable Tara Rivers, Minister responsible for Financial Services and Home Affairs. Also with us, MLA and Councillor Mr. Austin Harris. Minister, why we can't take the cookie cutter approach to was it the Caribbean Financial Action Task Force?
Right, the report. Yeah. So again, and I'm certainly not the expert in this area, so I will give you the kind of broad strokes understanding of the kind of process. So there is the kind of global body of the Financial Action Task Force, and then each kind of region has its regional body. In our case, it's the Caribbean Financial Action Task Force, which Cayman sits as a member of. So we participate. We chaired it. We chaired it a couple of times, actually. 2 or 3 times we've actually chaired. So we've always been very active and committed to the kind of tenets that the Financial Action Task Force is promoting, and that is basically tackling concerns related to money laundering, terrorist financing, and proliferation financing. So that's essentially the why, or the what, I should say. So the body looks at assessing the various jurisdictions who make up the members of the global kind of FATF organization. And that's done on a rolling basis. So I don't know the time frame, but I think, our last assessment, I think, was in maybe 10 years ago. So it may be on a 10-year frame, but don't hold me to that. But again, each country obviously has a unique situation. Each country's economy is structured differently. So there isn't any one size fit all model, as you said. There are broad tenets that are put forward by the FATF as to this is the kind of areas of concern, these are the kinds of activities, or these are the kinds of oversight that you need to have as a jurisdiction, but the actual application is, to some degree left to the individual countries to put forward. There is then, as I said, the assessment process that's done by the various regional bodies for the various countries around the world, and at the end of the assessment, then there is the report. So in our case, as I said, so even the kind of assessment criteria evolves as well. So we're now in the kind of new criteria that's been set by the FATF, which is focusing, as I said, on effectiveness. So whereas our report as it related to the technical compliance was better than our report for effectiveness, the fact is this is the first time that countries are kind of being assessed on the effectiveness front. So again, wanting to put in context that Cayman is not the only country finding itself in the situation that we're in. But that doesn't mean that we can just sit back on our laurels and say, well, other countries are facing the same issues, because, of course, the Cayman Islands is the Cayman Islands, and we tout and we're proud of being global leaders in, financial services, as an international financial center. But that also puts increased scrutiny on the country. And so we unlike other jurisdictions who may have, similar assessment results to us, eyes are on Cayman, and will always continue to be on Cayman as long as we continue to be the global players that we are. And it's very much our intention to be the global players. So it's, you're the kind of victim of your own success. That's kind of where we're at. But I think we certainly see, and that's why from the government's perspective, this is absolutely the most critical thing that the country is facing in the next, 12 months, or like I said, to the next assessment period being the 20th February 2020. And so we are trying to mobilize as many the resources as necessary. And as I said, working very closely with the Deputy Governor and the Governor's even office so they can make sure that they impress upon the agencies to actually deliver and carry out the actions that need to be done. And in developing what those actions are, we always obviously need to look at the particular strengths, the particular weaknesses, where we need to fill the gaps. And so that's what is happening, or that's what the action plan for the different areas as well. So we have, not only the kind of national action plan that pulls everything together, there's an agency by agency, department by department, regulatory authority by regulatory authority. So in some instances, for example, the accountants are, the regulatory authority for the accountants are the Cayman Islands CIPA, the Professional Accountants Association. They are designated as a self-regulatory entity, and so they also feed into this process as well. So we really had to look, from the inside out, but the actions are guided by and are essentially geared towards meeting and addressing this very specific recommendations that are contained in the report. I hope that was helpful.
Extremely helpful, extremely helpful. We have about 6 minutes left. Want to give you an opportunity, for wrap-up and any other important messages that we need to get across, Mr. Harris?
Certainly I want to obviously leave the final words to the honor of the minister. So if I can just, just to touch again on the Finance Committee approach that we'll be taking on Friday, specific to the Housing Repairs Assistance Program. I said in Bodden Town this past weekend, Saturday in Bodden Town East, the Honourable Minister Dwayne Seymour held a public meeting, and I had the opportunity, along with my other colleagues, to speak at that public meeting. And I spoke about the work of the Housing Repairs Assistance Committee, specifically in terms of, we hear the common questions from time to time, whether they emanate from listeners, members of the listening audience, or in some cases members of the opposition. What is the government doing with its surplus? Well, the Housing Repairs Assistance Program is an example of what the government is doing with its surplus. 11 homes either commenced or completed in the last 2 years, 2018 to 2019, and we will be going back to Finance Committee on Friday seeking the approval of an additional $1.2 million, which will commence and or complete repairs on an additional 22 homes. Mm-hmm. So what that means is, in a nutshell, is that in the first 2 years or at the midterm of your Unity Government's administration, we will have addressed 33 Caymanian families by getting them back into their homes, particularly as we head into the height of the hurricane season. So this is where the government's surplus is going, back into the hands, or in this case, back into the homes that provide shelter for our Caymanians in the first instance. In the second instance, certainly we have seen the government surplus, again, going back into the hands of Caymanians vis-a-vis the Needs Assessment Unit. Again, 2018, there was at least one additional supplementary for the year. That was, again, to meet the needs of the growing demand. But this is where the government is spending its surplus monies. It is putting it back into the hands of our citizens. And I think it's important that the public recognize that. Whether they agree with it or not is, a question for another day. But the government is seeking to fulfill its commitment to not only build safer communities, but providing assistance to those most vulnerable. If I can just use a few minutes just to make a personal plug for the Prospect and Red Bay Community Group. Sure. As you know, the Prospect and Red Bay Community Group meets regularly once every month, the first Monday of every month. We have combined Prospect and Red Bay because obviously our boundaries are so very closely interlinked. Compliments of the Prospect Red Bay Executive Committee, which again is led by Sabrina Fennell as president. We will be participating in the 60 Acts of Service as part of the Celebrate Cayman Committee. Tonight's meeting will be held at 7 o'clock at the usual time and at the usual location, the Seafarers Hall on Victory Avenue. But we will be hosting what is a healthy living night. There will be a number of booths available to residents and constituents of Prospect and Red Bay. There will be health screenings that include blood pressure, cholesterol, and glucose levels by public health officials. There will be an age is a lifestyle discussion, massage chairs, which are all very, very popular. Last night they were setting up for the event, and of course the organizers couldn't help but sit in the massage chairs and get a bit of massage for their tired muscles. There'll be something called an ice massage. I don't know what that is, but it sounds intriguing, so I definitely want to be a part of that. There'll be hydrotherapy foot bath treatments. So it's like a mini spa taking place on our regularly scheduled community group meetings. Paraffin treatments, healthy cooking demos, as well as the effects and prevention of substance abuse in those discussions. So there'll be a whole number of different things for residents and of Red Bay and Prospect. A little different than the usual monthly meeting, but again, I think it's important to state that both the Premier, who's MLA for Red Bay, and myself, MLA for Prospect, regularly attend these meetings, and it's an opportunity to connect with our constituents, to hear what their concerns are, but also to highlight some of the activities that are taking place in Prospect and Red Bay, and tonight will be no different. So I hope to encourage members of Prospect and Red Bay to come out to the Seafarers Hall tonight at 7 o'clock.
Excellent. Minister?
Oh, and I would like to say that I certainly would invite you to come and meet with the constituents of West Bay South as well. And we can have, as long as you bring those spa services, we would make sure you would be welcome. No, that's a fantastic idea. No, certainly, I think, again, and I wanted to kind of, I did mention the names of the ministers that sat on the interministerial committee, but as obviously the Attorney General, as I said, who, the kind of has oversight,
Overall, yes.
oversight of the entire process is a key member as well as that being the deputy governor. So again, from the kind of operational civil service side, so everybody in the room, the decision makers that need to know, and we get regular reports. But also, as I said, we also have the opportunity then to interrogate the process and to provide whatever support and guidance that may be needed at that time as well. And there are a number of layers that happen before it gets to that level. Okay. So there's the operational, technical team meetings, etc. But again, I just want to reiterate that as a country, of course, we will always, and people feel, and I feel it too, but just being in this seat for the past 2 years, that, as a country, you feel what is considered to be the kind of assessment fatigue. We're constantly being assessed. But the reality is that's the nature of the game in which we play. That's the nature of the world in which we operate in. And as I said, we as a country have no intention of not continuing to be dominant players in this. So we have to just accept that is the reality, and things will continue to change and evolve, and we will continue to have to meet those challenges and evolve likewise. Yes. And certainly we have the understanding and support of the wider business community in this regard too. I think people understand what's at stake, and so people have certainly been coming forward and playing ball.
Excellent.
So with that, want to thank the listening audience. I hope this has been helpful. I know it's been kind of a whirlwind introduction of what is to come. You will certainly be seeing more in the Legislative Assembly as it relates to bills that will be overall addressing the issues related to the CFATF report in months to come.
Excellent. Folks, please stay tuned for the record. We'll be back shortly.
Satisfaction is guaranteed 24 hours a day, whether it's music or information.
From Grand Cayman to Cayman Brac to Little Cayman, we've got you covered.
You ever hear a thing like that?
Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.
Radio Cayman.
Headlines. Radio Cayman's newsroom. Headlines. These are the biggest stories right now.
Following a recent workshop on the subject, local public and private stakeholders are set to collaborate on a special climate change and health chapter to go into the draft National Climate Change Policy. The Pan Health Organization organized event anticipates the impacts of climate change on health and health systems and is intended to help all small island developing states have health systems that are resilient to climate change in place by 2030. The U.S. President Donald Trump and First Lady Melania Trump met with the Queen on their first day of their state visit to the United Kingdom. The pair were invited to Buckingham Palace for a private lunch and welcome ceremony. They arrived on Air Force One earlier on Monday and were taken to the U.S. ambassador's home in central London, where they're staying. And a recording has emerged of the captain of a cruise ship describing an engine fault causing the vessel to crash into a tourist boat in Venice on Sunday. In a conversation with the harbor master, the captain of the MSC Opera says that dropping 2 anchors was not enough because the engine was, quote, locked. The crash left 4 people hurt and has reignited calls to ban large vessels from the city's canal. Those are your headlines. I'm Karsley Fuller.
Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
What's happening in your community? News and information, music and more. You can find us. www.radiocayman.gov.ky. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Radio Cayman is your choice, your voice for today's biggest news. Radio Cayman.
For the record, with Orrett Connor.
Initiating system.
For information that matters. For the record, with Orrett Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. We have no guests in the studio. In my opening remarks and talking about today's schedule, we were supposed to be talking about the school's report and the new curriculum. I have no guests in the studio. Maybe they're on their way here. So the show must go on, and so it will. You heard me talk earlier about persons living in the Cayman Islands, not born here, not with any Caymanian connections before they got here. And spending 50 years here when they came to the Cayman Islands to work, even before they reached the age of 20. One of our listeners has responded to some of the things that I said and presented their own views in relation to it, and I will share those with you. The person says it is one thing for Caymanians to accept these persons as Caymanians, but it is another thing when they proudly don't claim to be any other nationality except that of their own country. They even hold on to their native accent/language tongue as though they just came here yesterday. In my opinion, anyone who's been here so long and has not made or is making a tangible contribution to this society except for their jobs that they are/were paid for, or if they have a business, the majority of their employees are permit holders with no Caymanian ancestry or Caymanian spouses. As a Caymanian of 6 generations of great contributors to our society, such as very good seamen, veterans, teachers, doctors, farmers, and most of any other career found here, I consider these persons as who they consider themselves to be, their native nationality. As you read the article on Mr. John Cumber negotiating to bring home Caymanians from Cuba, my desire and opinion or argument, if you want to call it that, has always been that our government of this day follow in his footsteps to bring back our Caymanians as far back as 5 or 6 generations to gain their status, which of course their ancestors have worked hard for and contributed significantly to building up this country to what it is today, some of whom have lost their lives in the process. It is the strong belief of many indigenous Caymanians that such persons, once they can prove their Caymanian ancestry, should not be subject to working here on a work permit and have to be subjected to all the bureaucracy that they are subjected to here now, but should be eligible for Caymanian status above anyone else who have no connections. So this person is airing their views in relation to the foreigners who have been here. And I must agree that there are some people, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with you holding on to your ancestry when it comes, as it relates to your place of birth. We as Caymanians, we have done the same. Many of us lived in the United States, always considered Cayman our home, and took that ultimate move, made that ultimate move, not only to just have it in your head mentally that Cayman is my home, but actually returned here. And some returned very early and had much to contribute. Some may have returned later in their lives and still have much to contribute as well. So, and then as regards to bringing back Caymanians, we saw at one point in time where our immigration legislation, if you were a child born to Caymanian but you didn't possess Caymanian status, and let's say you were applying for it through a grandparent or otherwise, there was a requirement that you had to reside in the Cayman Islands for a period, I think it may have been 2 years before you were eligible. So you had to establish that residence. I think that was taken out as well. We also saw discrimination against our Caymanians in the voting process as well, their ability to be registered as electors. Now, we talk about our electoral roll and the numbers that we have on there now, and the fact that if you're non-Caymanian and if you're non-Caymanian but you have gone through the processes, we have now removed the requirement that you have to be a British Overseas Territorial citizen by virtue of a connection with the islands to be eligible to be registered as a voter. So as long as you possess Caymanian status, then you're eligible to vote. But what about our Caymanians who are overseas? Now, in the past, I know the arguments and the mentality was they chose to live overseas, and as a result, why should we allow them to be able to vote in our country? I think there is a strong, strong argument for allowing them to vote, despite the fact that they may be residing overseas, if, and I say if, there is a credible fear that the voting population in the Cayman Islands is going to be skewered in such a way that you're going to have persons with no Caymanian ancestry, no Caymanian background, no Caymanian heritage dominating our electoral rolls. Then it becomes extremely, extremely important that we allow our Caymanians overseas to have the vote as well. Otherwise, it will be another case of Caymanians being outnumbered. But until that takes place, those Caymanians who are residing overseas, and they're not residing overseas because of the nature of their occupation, they're not residing overseas because they're students, they're not overseas for any medical conditions, then they cannot vote. Something for us to consider. Something for us to consider in addition to making it much easier for our Caymanians to return home. And when we talk about our Caymanians, I think it should not necessarily be, it should be the individual and any children as well who would normally qualify for Caymanian status. That is my take on that particular aspect of it. Hurricane season is upon us. In 1966, there was an introduction, the introduction of what was considered to be something like, I guess I'll use the term prefabricated housing in the Cayman Islands. And at that time, the Mr. A. Cullen Panton, I believe the A would have stood for Albert Cullen Panton, director of Cayman Aluminum Construction Company Limited, had a proposal to build sort of prefabricated homes in the Cayman Islands. So the article reads, the purpose, there was a luncheon at Galleon Beach that was hosted by Mr. Cullen Panton. He spoke there, and the purpose of the gathering was to acquaint local businessmen with the newly formed company, Cayman Aluminum Construction Company Limited, which is now offering for sale in the islands materials of Endura Life Products Incorporated and Pre-Built Structures International of Miami. So that was being proposed in the Cayman Islands. In a later article on that particular issue, the Tradewinds newspaper, there was an editorial in relation to that proposal as well. And I will share that editorial with you when we return. We're going to take a commercial break now, folks. Please stay tuned. Phone lines are open since we have no guests. If you have something that you may want to talk about, remember, you can call us on a toll-free number provided courtesy of Floor. That toll-free number is 1-800-534-8255. You can also call us on 949-8037, 949-6990. Email us at fortherecord, one word, for the record, at candw.ky. WhatsApp us on 925-3261. And if you don't want to call in and you just want to listen or watch us, subscribe to Radio Cayman live stream. Please stay tuned for the record. We'll be back shortly.
Since March 2004, West Bay Pharmacy has kept their doors open to the local communities, even before, during, and after Hurricane Ivan. At West Bay Pharmacy, our staff provides so much more than pharmaceutical excellence. From the moment you walk through our doors to completing your cash out, our staff will have put your healthcare concerns at ease. We would like to take this moment to thank our loyal friends and customers. To us at West Bay Pharmacy, our patients are our primary concern. We provide thorough background checks and precise calculations to ensure your medical safety. Thank you for being a part of our family and for choosing West Bay Pharmacy, where we care about your health.
They say cleaning your house never killed anyone, but why take chances? Spend your time doing what you love and leave the rest to Roper's Janitorial. Complete janitorial service for commercial, industrial, and residential with 24-hour emergency service. Roper's Janitorial, 949-2511. Email janitorial@ropers.ky. Take back your life and get the job done right the first time. Roper's Janitorial, 949-2511.
Support our port, support our tourism. Did you know Georgetown's revitalization goes hand in hand with a new cruise terminal? The project will create jobs and entrepreneurial opportunities for Caymanians, and Georgetown will once again be a hub for visitors and locals alike. A capital we can all enjoy. Learn more and spread the word.
Support our port, support our tourism.
For the record, with Orrett Connor.
Initiating system.
For information that matter. For the record, with Orrett Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. No guests in the studio, so we're going to have our open line where you can call in, discuss issues that you may want to talk about. Meanwhile, I will share with you conversations that we're receiving from other persons via WhatsApp or emails. I believe we have two callers on hold. Let's go to the phone lines. First caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning, O.C. How are you today?
Good morning. I'm fine. And yourself?
Okay, thank you. I just got through riding. I never tried anything like I had told you before.
Okay, so this time you got home all in one piece.
Oh yes. What I do is ride around the neighborhood couple of times, and then venture out on the road, but not any further than the turtle farm.
Okay.
And it feels good because it's such a beautiful day, and I always want to ride early in the morning to get that morning sun. Yeah. Get my vitamins.
Makes you feel good for the rest of the day. It really does.
Yes, it does.
I think we need to we have to concentrate more on fitness and wellness in the Cayman Islands rather than addressing it at the end, the latter stage. If we're more proactive in terms of our physical health, it will make life so much easier and less expensive also.
And look at our older people that are living to, 90s and the hundreds and stuff like that. They had fresh stuff. They work each day to get that fresh stuff. You work today to prepare for tomorrow, and on and on and on. but we rather this fast everything, touch button everything, and it's telling a toll on many people. But this is what I call you about.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, see, I am not for building the port into Georgetown Harbor.
Okay.
I am not for that. It would destroy the environment, and I do not care which engineer or engineers would say that they can build, or they would build a wall so the seas cannot come in. God controls that. The powers to be controls that. No scientist, no engineer I would ever listen to. And I wish that those representatives that we have would listen to the people once for all. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you don't like it or not. But we were the people that put them there, hoping that they would take our interests to listen to, and not all the time we out here going to be right, but at least consider it. Build a port somewhere else, but not in that Georgetown Harbor. Okay. I would say consider taking that same money, because it's such conflicting stories of how it's going to build and who's going to build it and where the cost is going to go. You can never ever hear the truth, if it is the truth behind any of this, and do more things for what tourists that we have in here, like see that we have proper public bathrooms, see that the bathrooms are the restrooms in the restaurants and some hotels as well is good to go into. In some of these restaurants, it's deplorable. It's a disgrace, but they get away with it. They get away with it.
But do they fall under inspection by public health?
I think so. And
or environmental health? Yeah.
I think that it's, or this is what I heard, that it's only two. How can they have two for the tourism that we have here in this island?
When you say two inspectors?
No, that's what I understand. I wouldn't swear to that, but that's what is taught. Now, when I was in condo management and stuff, long time ago, well, they had people coming and inspecting our condos, and those that were not fit to be put in the rental, they say update it or you're not going to rent it. But it seemed like we're losing everything because people come in here and tell us what to do with our little island. And we have done it before. Our elders have showed us how to do things before, and now we're handicapped about those kind of things. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Like I said, I am not for the port, and at least not in Georgetown. It's completely spoiled our environment, and believe me, if it spoiled us 7 Mile Beach, we can close our doors. We can close our doors.
Thank you very much, caller.
Thank you. Thank you.
Let's go to the next caller. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record. We have no caller there. We may have lost that caller. Please feel free to call back if we lost the connection or if you couldn't hold on any longer, caller. So I think it is in. We have the caller now. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Morning, Mr. Connor.
Good morning.
I'm just calling to say, I don't know why so many expats have to be filling jobs that Caymanians can do. You know, you look around, and the thing is, I got in talking with some tourists yesterday, and they said that they're at a hotel, and I work at a tourist-related industry, and no one knows where we are or anything, and no one at their hotel tell them about the tourist place where I work. And it's like, well, what is happening? And they said they found it by walking the beach. Someone said to them that you had to visit the caves in North Side, and it's like, why? You know, this should be like number one priority.
But does your company advertise?
Yes, we do. And I know we take flyers there also, but I'm not sure why these people, they concierge, don't know anything about it. Maybe, you know, they can't tell because they themselves where we are.
You're drifting off, caller, for some reason. Caller, are you there? Caller drifted off there. I think it is important for us to know. We talk about construction. You heard MLA and Councillor Mr. Austin Harris earlier talk about the repair of homes and everything in the Cayman Islands. Hurricane Ivan, one of the strongest hurricanes in modern times to hit the Cayman Islands. We saw the level of destruction, but we also saw the resilience and the strength of the structures in the Cayman Islands. That didn't happen by accident. And I think this whole, in 1966, the whole idea of introducing aluminum and pre-constructed homes in the Cayman Islands has a lot to do with us being to withstand a strong hurricane such as Hurricane Ivan. Here's some of the dialogue that took place in relation to that. In this particular one, and this the writer of this one is Captain T.R. Borden. I don't know if it's Captain Rail Borden, T.R. Borden. If you know exactly who that person is, I would certainly welcome you. And I'm going to try to read it. It's a pretty long letter that he wrote to the editor on the 2nd of June 1966. He says, Dear sir, I'm writing to express my dismay, which I am sure is shared by a very great number of Caymanians, concerning the erection of an aluminum prefabricated building on Cardinal Avenue in the center of Georgetown, and the permission which has apparently been granted by the planning board for the erection of those buildings elsewhere, particularly on our beaches. These islands, over many years, have at great expense built an efficient construction industry. Not only has considerable capital been invested in 2 block manufacturing plants, but approximately 250 skilled men earn their livings at home as carpenters, masons, block layers, and other building workers. The effects of to the economy of widespread introduction of overseas manufactured prefabricated buildings would be extremely serious. In addition, it would cause a heavy drain on our foreign exchange. The economics, however, are not the only objection to this type of construction. We in this island have built up for the West Indies a high standard of living, and it is time that those people who have the money to do so start to consider the aesthetic beauty of the islands and the establishment of architectural styles suited to our climate and local conditions which will become characteristic of the Cayman Islands. One has only to look at Bermuda, Nassau, the Virgin Islands, the U.S. Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico, Barbados, and any number of other countries to appreciate fully the aesthetic charm which can be achieved in both town and country by good architecture. The prefabricated buildings undoubtedly has its place in modern construction. It is well suited to construction offices, which may be temporary in nature or may require moving from time to time, and temporary buildings which have been erected have to be erected quickly after a natural catastrophe such as a hurricane. I submit, however, that as a form of permanent building, it has no place in the Cayman Islands and should be forbidden by the planning board. If the planning board has the power to prevent this type of construction, they should do so. If they do not have the power, it is for the legislature to grant them it without delay. The authorities must act quickly before our building industry is severely affected and the beauties of our island impaired. Yours very truly, T.R. Bawden, Captain. With that, we're going to take a commercial break. We do have a caller on hold. We're going to ask that caller to hang in there. Quick commercial break. When we return, we will take your call.
Why my wife always asking if I'm in a rush when she's the one always making us late?
Might as well say, yeah, I'm in a rush and go buy the new Toyota Rush you've been talking about. Because they on sale this month. Dial teacher.
The super special spring SUV sale at Vant Motors. Save up to $4,400 with SUVs starting at only $23,500 like the 7-seater Toyota Rush. Save money, get cash back, or use the discount to upgrade features on the SUV of your choice, including the Toyota RAV4, the Fortuner, the Rush, or the Ford EcoSport. It's our super special spring SUV sale only at Vant Motors, Walkers Road.
At Seaboard Marine, customers often ask us questions about their shipments.
Hi, I'm thinking of buying a car from the States. Which port do you ship out of?
Hi, we ship out of Miami, Houston, and Brooklyn. Just let us know your port of choice and we can provide you with a quotation and answer any questions you may have on ensuring and protecting your vehicle during its journey.
Shipping shore to shore,
Since 1993, Rotary Central has worked diligently each year to provide quality bus shelters to our community. A traveling convenience to our school children, the elderly, young people going to work, guest workers, and visitors using the public bus. We, Rotary Central, help you, our advertisers, make it happen. Your marketing dollar travels a far way, positioning your message, your product, your services, your presence in over 83 bus shelters. Every dollar you spend, every advert you place helps to build another bus shelter, providing modest comfort for Cayman travelers. Reserve space now on the only billboard medium in the Cayman Islands. Email rotaryshelters@gmail.com. rotaryshelters@gmail.com. The Bus Shelters, a partner in community convenience. Another inspiration program by Rotary Central Cayman Islands.
Radio Cayman 11 a.m. News Headlines is brought to you by Savannah Pharmacy.
Savannah Pharmacy, just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays.
Stay updated with the very latest news from Cayman, the region, and around the world. The 11 o'clock headlines, brought to you by
Savannah Pharmacy. For more information, call 946-3336.
For the record, with Orrett Connor.
Initiating system.
For information that matters. For the record, with Orrett Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. No guests in the studio. We're going to the phone lines. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record. Caller didn't hold on. Okay. So we have another letter in 1966 that supported Captain T.R. Bawden's letter. And this one says, Dear Sir, the following letter has been submitted along with a petition to the chairman of the Legislative Assembly. That would have been the chair or the president of the Legislative Assembly, who we do know at that time was the administrator. Not only did he sit in the executive, but he also served as the president, or what would be now our current day Speaker of the Legislative Assembly as well. It says, we feel that our our bodies of control, namely the Assembly, the Regional Planning Board, because that's what it was called then, what we now call the Planning Board, it was then called the Regional Planning Board. I don't know why the word regional was inserted there. The business licensing law should seriously take into consideration the potential growth of our island and anticipated realignments, pro and con. Our fluctuating and changing economy, due largely to the instability of our seamen's employment on foreign flagships, which are fast becoming automated and being replaced by other seamen, is causing our build up of manpower here in the islands. If there is not a fair medium of gainful employment maintained with growth in these islands, then these men, as well as our young men entering the labor market, will naturally use another source already established. Good, no doubt, and that is to obtain legal entry into the United States. So if people didn't find work here, they would then seek legal entry into the United States, which did happen to a certain extent. But does this mean a population drain instead of a population buildup, which is an economic necessity to any sound society? I'm going to end there for now. Because we have a caller, and I will continue to read from this article later on, because a petition was signed and sent to the Legislative Assembly in regards to, again, these prefabricated buildings that were approved to be erected in the Cayman Islands. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Morning, Elsie. How are you?
I'm fine. Morning. How are you, sir?
Quick question. I know you experiencing the same thing everybody else is experiencing, but we can't get any results. Well, see what we can do about the situation with these roads, with the drivers on these roads.
Good question. Good question. It is getting ridiculous. But tell me of your experience. What have you recently experienced?
Well, it's not a day go by that I don't experience something.
Mm-hmm.
But I have made up my mind that, people from different countries need to understand that, when you look at the drivers, they have no regard to the Red Bay Primary School, the yellow light that is there. I see the police are down on the end, and they are still speeding through. Where are their minds when they get behind the wheel of a vehicle? It's beyond me and everything that, I was taught when I learned to drive. And as far as indicators is concerned, everybody that do not use their indicators should be fined $500, and that will teach them a lesson, because there's so much stuff that they are getting away with in this country, and nobody is doing anything about it. And another thing is that maybe you could just educate them a little bit, being on the radio 3 days a week, is that you're driving on two lanes. Your left-hand lane are the slow lane, and your right-hand lane is the fast lane. I'm sure 99.9% of them don't even have that idea. I'm trying to do 40 miles an hour in the 40-mile zone, and I'm up behind some, I don't know what to call them, because they shouldn't be on the road, so they're not drivers, and they're doing 30 and 25 miles an hour in the right-hand lane. Get over in the left-hand lane and let me continue doing my 40 miles an hour. So the traffic can flow a lot better. But it seems like nobody cares about what they're doing on the road, and when will it stop? I mean, I am sick and tired of it, trust me, of what I see happening on this road. They comes up behind you, right? They break their neck to get behind you so they can get you to speed up. But you know what I do? Slow down and say, yeah, you got your mark this morning, because you or nobody else will intimidate me on my road. They are not your roads. They are my roads. And if you want to own them roads and call them your roads, drive the way that you're supposed to drive, with sense and courtesy and everything else. But you know what? They think that they can just do whatever they want to do, because I guess they're right, because there's no enforcement to say, you know, enough is enough, you're not doing it anymore. And I hope the chief of police is listening to something this morning about these roads on this island, because, you know, they always try to do something when it's too late that somebody dies. What's the sense? Do it before it happens. Well, see, that's my piece for the morning, but it's really stressful.
Thank you very much, caller. A lot has to do with driver education. Of course, some people will say you can't teach a old dog new tricks. We have to look at it moving forward in terms of driver education. The number of people or the number of cars that I see being driven at night with the high beam on. The high beam is on, and they're in a line of traffic, 10 cars, all behind each other. Why in God's world do you need to have your high beam on when there's a car directly in front of you? The high beam is for you to be used when you're driving on roads where the visibility is reduced. It is my firm belief that many drivers don't know what a dip switch is on a car. They don't know when there's a high beam from they don't know a high beam from a low beam. All I can say to the sensible drivers out there is that you have to drive defensively. What do I mean by driving defensively? You have to drive for yourself, and you also have to drive for the other driver. You have to anticipate some of the things that they're going to do and try to mitigate against those as well, because there's a lot of craziness going on the road out there. And like I always say, remember that the life that you save may just be your own. So you have to drive defensively. You have to keep your cool on the roads. No road rage doesn't help the situation at all. It only makes it extremely worse. But we have to do more about driver education, especially for those new drivers that we're putting on the road. What we do about those aggressive drivers who are out there, who feel that they're experienced drivers and they're using the roads as a race course. Hopefully, and we pray that that they don't hurt themselves or they hurt no one else. I have always, and this is cold and I probably wouldn't do it, but it always runs through my mind sometimes when I see people driving crazily on the roads, and I say, if for some reason further up the road I discover that they have run into the road, run off the road, or have hit something, I question whether or not I will stop and inquire. It would be a cold thing to do so, but whether or not I would stop and inquire as to their safety based on the fact that they were the ones that put themselves in that situation in the first place. Sometimes you just simply get that feeling. You simply get that feeling sometimes. Time for a commercial break. Folks, please stay tuned. For the record, we'll be back shortly.
We are Radio K-Man, and this is how we wake you up in the morning. Praise time on Radio Cayman.
Sing your praise to the Lord. Come on, everybody, stand up and sing one more. Hallelujah, give me praise to the Lord. We are united in Jesus Christ. We are the soldiers of the land.
Praise time.
Weekday mornings from 6 until 6:30.
There's a meeting up in heaven. Roll call. He's a name in the Lamb's book of life. Roll call, brother, sister. Roll call. If you don't stop shouting, if you don't stop dancing, we gonna put you out of our church.
Praise time.
Jesus in the morning, yeah.
Weekday mornings from 6 until 6:30.
Your song flowed through my lips. Your work moved through my hands. Your thoughts stay on my mind. Live in me.
Since 1993, Rotary Central has worked diligently each year to provide quality bus shelters to our community. A traveling convenience to our school children, the elderly, young people going to work, guest workers, and visitors using the public bus. We, Rotary Central, help you, our advertisers, make it happen. Your marketing dollar travels a far way, positioning your message, your product, your services, your presence in over 83 bus shelters. Every dollar you spend, every advert you place helps to build another bus shelter, providing modest comfort for Cayman travelers. Reserve space now on the only billboard medium in the Cayman Islands. Email rotaryshelters@gmail.com. rotaryshelters@gmail.com. The Bus Shelters, a partner in community convenience. Another inspiration program by Rotary Central Cayman Islands.
Men, we need your help. We can't do it without you. Right now, here in Cayman, boys are struggling. They need a friend, someone to mentor and guide them. They need you. More than money, they need your time. Just 1 hour a week is all it takes. Big brothers and big sisters need men who are willing to help our boys between the ages of 6 and 16. Please join us for an information session on June 3rd or 17th at 12:30, 4 or 5:30 p.m. For more information, email info@bbbs.ky or call Tracy Ann Taylor on 326-0610. Men, we need you.
For the record with Orrett Connor.
Initiating system.
For information that matters. For the record with Orrett Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. Before I go back to this article, I just want to mention, we mentioned YY's funeral yesterday. And also on Saturday, the funeral for the late Miss Rosalie Seymour took place as well. So the Scranton area there took 2 hits recently in terms of losing 2 of their senior citizens, there as well. The Seymour, Whitaker, and the Whitaker family, huge family, huge impact in that area as well. And I always say jokingly, these families are so big that if you have something to say about someone, it should always be something good, because if you have something bad and you say it about someone and you're saying it to someone else, you never know who they're related to in the Cayman Islands, because their families spread wide and far. I always say that as a joke, but again, huge turnouts, for those persons in the community. So this article, these people got a petition together and signed it, and then they wrote a letter to the editor, and it goes on to say that this is not the working. Is it not the working man who contributes so greatly towards the buying and spending power? Are not these working men the source of the main product the Cayman Islands realize locally, namely the construction of a building of most any size and shape of purely raw, sometimes imported materials? When we think of selling our island to tourists, selling the pleasure of the islands to tourists, we think of paramount items, namely our beaches with its crystal counterpart the water and the character and friendliness of our people, and we still sell those two products in the Cayman Islands. Those are still our main assets in the Cayman Islands. The article goes on to say we envision elaborate buildings on our beaches in the near future. We also envision the collaboration of Caymanians in the near future, owning some of these elaborate hotel buildings as well as foreign investments on our beaches. During our travels, we have noted with amazement such places as Brazil and the Florida Eastern Seaboard, to name only a few, with magnificent resort buildings on their seashores. Yet, their beaches could never compare with our beaches. If cheap aluminum houses are allowed to be built on our best real estate values, our beaches, where will the affluent and potential entrepreneur, encouraged by modern communications and the arrival of the jet age in Cayman, invest his money? We think he will simply hop to some other island which has already made preparations for its kind. There is no need for good aluminum awnings, storm windows, etc. There is a need, for good aluminum awnings, storm windows, etc. And the demand for these will continue to rise with the construction of well-fortified buildings built by Caymanians, allowing better earnings, giving them more spending power, benefiting every business and service medium in the islands, including the marketable items that are anticipated from our agricultural source now being established. We make a special plea to our regional planning board to broaden its scope in every respect as expediently as possible, as a technical and reasonable obligation is ahead for them. In conclusion, may we also state that the majority of names tendered on the attached petition represents a large number of seamen that lower islands and would like to remain here if a healthy medium of living can be maintained. And it is signed by concerned Caymanians. I must say that the editorial of that same date took a slightly different approach to it and actually tried to point out some of the contradictions in relation to some of the claims that were being made about Caymanian employment, Caymanian skilled labor. And they pointed out that in 1966, because of the construction boom, that it was very difficult to find skilled Caymanians to work because of the demand that was out there on it. But I'm sharing this with you simply to point out where we are today based on decisions that were made in the past. And I have no doubt in my mind that what we see today here in the Cayman Islands as far as architecture and as far as the building component, the strength, the robustness, the resilience of our structures, our building structures in the Cayman Islands has much to do with the position that influential people in the Cayman Islands took at that point in time. Not only, when I say influential, I don't mean simply those persons who were in positions of power or those persons who had money, but those who could influence decisions in other ways. And seamen and their families. And if the seamen weren't home, then the women took the role and they spoke out. They were the ones who helped to make a difference. They were the ones who were able to ensure that we in the Cayman Islands weren't sold short by people who wanted to introduce elements into our culture that we really were not receptive to, and we felt that were not in our best interest. Like I said, there were some other articles here, and this one, I'll just mention the fact that there was a suicide in East End. I won't read it. I wouldn't not want to rehash memories for any family members who may still be alive or who may be listening in relation to that. There is another article in relation to Mr. Otto Watler being saved, and it says here the sea was perfectly calm, just like a great sheet of glass, snorkeling in the late afternoon sun. There was not a ripple to be seen. But for Otto Watler and his would-be rescuers, the calm was a deceptive mirror of danger. And if I can find the rest of the article, it goes on to talk about the rescue of Mr. Otto Watler. It goes on to share with you the fact that it says, by 9:30 p.m. last night, Otto Watler was reported missing. He had gone out earlier in the day in a small boat owned by Galleon Beach Club. Preparations for a search were made, and by 11:30 p.m., Valet Bawden, Willard Bawden, Jerry Bawden, and Jim Bawden set out in Valet's boat, the Snoo. Many of you will remember the Snoo. They searched the darkened waters for hours without a glimpse of Otto Watler, and then their own troubles began. They struck the reef off Conch Point, doing some 25 knots. The Snoo began to ship water rapidly. Fortunately, they located an opening in the reef, slipped through, and beached the boat at Barker's. They then walked to West Bay, borrowing a car, and drove to Georgetown. Then there they learned that Otto Watler still had not been heard from. Around 2 a.m. Sunday morning, they awakened Bob Soto, who, despite a severely injured back, got out of bed and put to sea in his own boat, with Jim Bawden cruising up and down the reef again without results. And then, sometime around 6 a.m., Tom Hubble went up in his plane and joined the search. At last, Otto Watler was sighted. He was seen to be in tow by a catboat near Badabano. Everyone breathed easier. When at last Otto was safely on land, it was learned that he had developed engine trouble and had broken down the night before, some 3 miles off the reef near North Sound. In the dark, he quite luckily hit the main channel near Barker's around 2 a.m. and paddled inside the reef. He found that he was able to paddle as far as the current was pulling against him, and was successful in moving some 3 miles before meeting up with the catboat that towed him to safety. According to preliminary reports, none of the persons involved in the rescue operation, including Otto Watler himself was injured, nor were either of the boats extensively damaged. What was potentially a very dangerous situation turned out well as a result of a combination of calm thinking, quick action, and tremendous amount of luck. All of the men who took part in the operations are to be highly commended for this show of unselfish concern for their fellow citizen. That is a hallmark of Cayman and Caymanians then, and it is still here in Cayman. Unfortunately, we have so many more people now demonstrating antisocial behaviors and actions in the Cayman Islands. But the friendliness, the helpfulness is still there. Folks, I want to thank you for allowing Radio Cayman, and by extension, For the Record, into your homes, into your vehicles as you traverse the busy roads of the Cayman Islands, into your places of work, whether it be an office cubicle or if you're working in the outdoors. I also want to remind you that we are our brothers and our sisters' keepers. There is always someone out there who's less fortunate than we are, and I ask you to extend a helping hand to them. If you can't do that, then I suggest you donate to a worthy charity, because we always want to consider those who need, not necessarily those who want or even those who crave. I say to you, have a great day. Continue to support your radio station, Radio Cayman. Join Sterling Dwayne Banks at 12:15 for Talk Today. And as usual, we ask the good Lord to bless these three beautiful, wonderful Cayman Islands. Also join me on Wednesday when we will have MLA Mr. Kenneth Bryan in the studio with us as well. So folks, God bless and have a great day.
Community radio with a different appeal. The voice of the people. Security through adversity. Stuck on you. Radio for all time.
You're listening to Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.